for joining today's Goldcast Insider webinar. My name is Kelly Cheng, and I am the head of marketing at Goldcast. I'm going to be your host today, and I'm super excited to dig into part 3 of this fantastic series that we've planned for you. Before we dive in, I do have some housekeeping items. Let me pull up my slides. All right, so housekeeping items. Please share your comments and engage in the chat. We want to make sure that this is extremely community-centric. Your chat is to the right. You can also drop your questions in the Q&A tab. That's also to the right of your main stage. We'll be taking questions towards the end. And this webinar is being recorded, and the on-demand recording will be available after the event later on today. We will email you tomorrow once it is fully ready for you to watch on replay. We also have a giveaway today. So we are giving away a $300 Airbnb gift card. So last stretch of the summer, plan a last getaway with this Airbnb gift card. All you have to do to win is to watch the first 2 sessions on demand, attend today live, ask a question in the Q&A, and then do a recap episode with key takeaways on LinkedIn. And make sure you tag Goldcast, and you can get a chance to win this $300 gift card. Okay, what are we going to cover today? We are going to talk about video, layering video into LinkedIn, the benefits of LinkedIn video content, how LinkedIn video production best practices, and repurposing LinkedIn video content. So it is now my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today, Mark Jung, who is the founder of Authority, a B2B LinkedIn growth agency that helps turn attention to authority on LinkedIn. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Mark Jung to the stage.
Hey, thanks, Kelly. Appreciate you having me. What is going on, everyone? I think we need some Tuesday energy, so drop some vibes in the chat right here. Let's get at least a few fire emojis, drop where you're going, and we're going to dive in. So while everyone's doing that, while we're getting hyped, quick thing. A lot of you have been DMing me on LinkedIn asking for profile reviews, content reviews, all that good stuff. And one of the biggest challenges we're having is just so much that we want to cover and not enough time. So what we're doing for you is today we're going to be going super deep on video. And what we're going to do next week is we're adding a full 60-minute bonus episode for you. 4th episode, and the entire thing we're going to do for the entire show is just live profile reviews, live content reviews, and giving you all like a full deep dive so we can literally do it like on the spot, 3 to 5 minute profile reviews for an entire hour. So if you've been waiting in that backlog, if you've been shooting me a DM, make sure that you throw that in the chat here, let the Goldcast team know, and then come on down for part 4 next week, and we'll make sure we can go super deep, and hopefully that is helpful for y'all. So today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite things to do that I actually don't do nearly as much as I should, which is fun. So I'm starting to do now, and that's video content. So if you haven't tuned in for the first few weeks, I'll give you the quick TLDR on sort of who I am and why you should actually pay attention here. So I'll jump in and I'll share my screen. As folks know here, I'm not a slide guy. So we're going to have, some screen share, some stuff like that. But I did put some things in a Google Doc that I'll make available to y'all after this. So there is a lot that we'll cover tactically from the video side. So first things first, I'll drop my LinkedIn profile in the chat here. Make sure you go. And if you have questions, shoot me a DM. If you want to know what you like, what you don't like, that's my profile in the chat. So just make sure that you can shoot me a connect, shoot me the questions. But I'm Mark, run Authority B2B, which is sort of a fully done LinkedIn growth service. We help leaders, company pages, and any type of founder really build and grow on LinkedIn. The reason why I like to screen share is a lot of the time people talk about what they do. I like to show. So I typically average on LinkedIn somewhere between like 1 to 1.5 million impressions a week. You can see in my last 14 days, I've done about 2.5 million. In my last week, down a little bit, but about 1.1 million in the last 7 days. And what I'm going to be teaching you all is a big part of sort of what I've learned about how to do LinkedIn and how you can start to level up your brand. So cool thing I just found out about, and thanks for someone for tagging me for this. Apparently I am the #1 LinkedIn-led growth creator in all of Canada, which was super cool. So shout out to Favicon for actually someone letting me know that. Really exciting. Appreciate the congrats there. But what I want to talk about with y'all today, and if you didn't have a chance to tune in from last time, I'll just literally drop this live link in the chat right now. This is just a Notion page I published. This is what we focused on our last episode, which was the content matrix template. So if you didn't get a chance to watch that, definitely go back and check out the recording from the last episode, because this is the foundation of everything you should be doing on LinkedIn. This is our unique authority B2B content matrix. So I'm going to take a pause there. Again, make sure if you have questions, throw them in the Q&A tab. We'll still have a chance to dive in and do some of that today. Another thing that y'all probably noticed is like, I talk at like the 1.25 to 1.45 speed of like a podcast by default. So if you miss something, drop it in the chat, shoot me a DM, and like let me know after. That's just my natural frenetic energy. So I know a lot of folks have been asking for that. So the content matrix link is there. Definitely take a look at it and use it. But now for the fun part. So we're going to talk video, and specifically like how you should be thinking about video. And what we talked about kind of in the first episode is like a really key thing. When you're a creator, one of the most difficult things for you to do, and I'll stop sharing for a little bit as we kind of talk about some of this stuff, is you want to create something that you're going to be excited about showing up every single day to do, especially if you're putting your face to camera and engaging with the audience. Because one of the most, like, I would say silent but deadly things as a creator is that like creative fatigue, that feeling of like, oh, what am I going to post about today? Or like when you're not 100% of like how you show up and make it fun. So a big part, even beyond the content matrix, is picking something where you can find like your icky guy. And if you haven't come up with that concept or familiar with it, it's basically the intersection of like what you enjoy doing, what is valued in the market, and like what you can have a unique and powerful point of view on. So it's like your joy, value, and unique skills, and like an event diagram, and you circle that part in the middle. It took me a while to figure out that like sort of, my why and really what I enjoy doing is bringing like life and humor and spirit to B2B. Because so many times I see B2B as this kind of like very lifeless, like blah to blah, as opposed to human. So a big part of, what I do is like I try to bring levity every day, show up and kind of just like be my usual full satire self. So even on the days where I feel like I don't want to necessarily like create or whatever that is, I'm like, you know what, like B2B needs someone to come bring some like life, some humor, some fun. So that's kind of the thing that keeps me motivated and like where my circle is. So I'm going to jump back in now, and we're going to start talking about the fun stuff here, which is my video framework. So just for y'all, I did, like I said, put some things in Google Docs. So we'll make this really easy, and I'll go through these and we'll actually like jump through some examples. But before we get to this, make sure you actually go and watch that content matrix episode and build your content matrix in your story. It's a key part of how to really set this up. The second thing you're going to do, which we're going to talk about and going through like what really good hooks look like, and I'll show you examples of how these could be like video, GIFs, static, all kinds of different formats. But we're going to talk about why you should actually be spending 80% of your time on your hook. And there's not just one type of hook. It's like one of the most common misconceptions in social and on LinkedIn. People think that the hook and your rehook is just the first and second line of text, when actually there's like 6 different types of hooks, and I'll take you through each of them and why you should be thinking about them differently. So let's jump into that right now. Here are the ones that I think are really overlooked. And we talked about this before, and I'll show you why. Your first hook for video or any type of multimedia content is your composition hook. And what I mean by composition hook is if you look at any of the posts that I create, this one included, these are all 800 pixels wide by 999 pixels high. The reason I use that, and we talked about that in the first episode, my post takes up your entire phone. If you're using only horizontal video, you're literally competing with at least 1 or 2 other posts on mobile. And if you're going to comment as well from yourself, which you can see that like I'll do that, my comment is also going to take up another half of that screen. So the first thing that you want to do to actually win with video and multimedia is like your composition hook. And it tends to be massively overlooked. Make sure you're using vertical wherever possible. And if you don't have vertical, if you render it horizontally, just put it on a vertical template and re-render it to make sure you are owning that composition hook. All right, second thing. So this is your physical hook. When you're doing face-to-camera video, There's a really fascinating study. Same way if you're familiar with like the F pattern study in psychology with websites, we all tend to read and scan in an F pattern. Meaning what we'll do is we'll go through and we'll read this first, this line first, we'll scan down the left, and then we'll start to read. Your physical hook and your movements can actually replicate that F pattern in real life, especially when you're gesturing with your hands, because it's directing your attention psychologically to the exact same way that our mind likes to read text content. So I'll give you an example and we'll go through some of these later, but see how I'm always like looking at the camera when possible? Like I have multiple screens, so it's like dancing around a little bit. Eye contact is one of the most important things that you should be doing in the first 2 seconds of your video when you're doing face to camera, and I'll show you why. So here are some examples, and we'll go through these. If you don't follow Demand Gen, she's great, and I'll give you some examples of her hooks. But if you notice, vertical video here, eyes on the camera, hand gesture about like 80% in the frame. There's a big part of like your physical framing and how that sets up for content. And if you look at a number of the top creators that I pulled for examples, they use that exact same format. This like 80-20 spot of you centered in the frame, looking directly at the reader, using hand gestures, movements, eye contact. So those are the first few things you want to get right. Then here is something that people know on TikTok, but not on LinkedIn. Most people have their audio content like muted by default on LinkedIn. Some people don't. It really depends on your settings. Your audio hook is one of the most powerful things if people are in LinkedIn's new video feed because they're scrolling up to help stop people. And one of the great parts about an audio hook is it actually shouldn't be the same as your text hook. And I'll give you an example of what this looks like with a static example so you can see what I'm saying. So this meme I posted yesterday, my image hook, right? Same with your multimedia hook, says, what's marketing life like? You know, me vibing, one more edit. So I could have filmed this as video content, right? I could have had myself on here like this, you know, vibing, and then someone with like an email notification saying like one more edit. And I'm like, right. So no matter what format you use, you can do this with multimedia. But my visual hook here is very, very different than my actual hook and rehook in text. And we'll talk about this for a second because this is, again, one of the principles of like good video content and good media content in general. So my text hook, you asking for feedback is a trap. My text rehook, stop doing it, do this instead. So this is the only thing that someone can see when they're actually viewing this post in their feed. Here's why this hook worked. I could have said instead that first line, asking for feedback is a bad practice. But do you see how that's a lot softer? Me saying it's a trap is more of a power word. It's short. There's like a little bit of curiosity. And then I follow it up with like, stop doing it. Do this instead. So I've given away like 80% of what I'm going to say in this piece of content, which is like, don't ask for feedback. I brought in some contrast, a power word, and then I said, don't do that, do this instead. And it's a simple way that you can start to actually get your message across. So if this was video content, let's say, I use an analogy to start, which is one of my favorite things to do. I'll give an example about something different. And I talked a lot about this. You should never say marketing costs. You should always say marketing investment. And the reason is cost has a negative association. Investment is positive. Who doesn't want to cut costs versus increase investments, right? So the same thing is true for feedback. So these are the 3 words that I explain of how I ask for feedback, depending on the stage where you're at. I use ideas, notes, or support, and then I included like the exact scripts that I use and explained why it worked. And you could see, again, my visual hook, whether or not it's video, static, whatever it might be, is that fundamental piece. And I'll give you another example of how I actually used video on a similar post yesterday, which inspired me to write this, or 2 days ago. So this was just a clip that I found of someone releasing like 1 million balloons. And it reminded me of just like this principle in marketing, which is like we get so much unwanted feedback. So I literally just came in and you can see here, it's like a funny visual reference of a problem that we all as marketers have felt, which is just like, you know, tons and tons of feedback. So again, that's my visual hook in this scenario. And then I paired it with, again, simple text hook here. And this is the same thing for video, right? The deepest pain for marketers, feedback from everyone, how I manage it. And then I go through my step-by-step process. So again, see here, my whole point is like, I could say something like, oh, you know, feedback is difficult to deal with, right? Here's how I manage it. But it's like, take a second, think about what we learned in episode 1. One emotion, one audience, one specific feeling, one point here. Like, think about hyperbole and contrast in your hooks, be them visual, audio, text, whatever it is, and try to dial it to 11 every time. But again, you can see here, if this was video, I went through, and I won't go through it, y'all can read this, but I broke down a great format that y'all should steal. It's called the bluff communication format. It's used by military to communicate, and it's one of the cheat codes to getting video content right. So go through it in 5 seconds, and then we'll come back to the next video hook. So the reason that the military invented this bluff technique is because they needed to convey very, very quick information on the go in real time to have fast decision making to avoid consequences. So what they do, and they use this all the time in email, is they use these words, and you can use them in Slack or email, in caps. I personally use an emoji because that's more, my style. And action, info, decision, sign, request, coordination. When you do video, social is about shortcuts. One of the reasons why a lot of my hooks say something like, here's how I manage it, or here's my framework, or whatever it might be, is I'm showing someone that like they can expect to actually get some type of learning from that post, right? You're signaling that there's more depth to what you're saying, that they should pay attention. Now, I'll talk about some of the things that are amazing that you could do next, but your contrast hook. So I won't talk too much about this. I'll show you in the video what you're wearing, the environment you're in, literally like everything that you do in your video and your framing is one of the most important things that you can do to ensure, after you have the composition right, that people are paying attention to you. If I'm at a busy airport and there's like bad audio quality, or there's like flashing lights or something like that, people aren't going to pay attention. But one of the hacks that I used to do in my very early career, when I didn't have like a set studio or marketing budget, is I used to have like a WeWork membership that I would pay for, just like for hot desks. And I would just stay after hours. And I would go and actually like record my iPhone videos around the WeWork in different locations, couches, office setups. And it looked like I had this like sweet office, even though it was literally just me at 6 o'clock with a spotlight at WeWork. So find a way that you can nail your backgrounds, your contrast. You can see here, like I'll give you some examples later, but you really want to make sure that you have a clean way of actually showing contrast, your environment. The more that you can bring in social trust cues as well, if you're ever on stage, if you're ever in some type of place that you want to use as social trust, it's a great way to bring that into your hook. Again, contrast hooks. So talk a lot about this, and we'll talk about it specifically later on. But one of the things that people underestimate that, Alex Hormozy was one of the first people to do really well is your subtitle hook. And I know you've been thinking like, Mark, you're so pedantic about video right now. And the answer is yes. Yes, I am. But these are all the different things you can use to get attention. So if you notice, have you ever seen those like TikToks or those Instagram videos that have like an animated background on them and then like a tweet with static text? There's a reason they do that, is because they want to give you something novel that shows movement that's going to catch your eye and keep your brain engaged. The same reason why there's cutscenes in videos, emoji overlays, and contrast. And you can see here, if I play this video from Alex, he has high contrast, quick moving subtitles. You can see he's moving his hands. His frame is centered. There's high contrast colors. The subtitles and how you add your message and your contrast helps to keep people engaged from beyond your initial message, to keep them actually following through with your content. And the last piece, which is your social trust hook, talked a little bit about this. If you notice, go on Instagram, go on TikTok, go on LinkedIn. There's a reason why medical professionals wear lab coats, even if they don't have to. There's a reason why fitness trainers typically have, open shirts or no shirt. There's a reason why people do the fake podcast style content for ads. It's because it brings trust to the viewer. So one of the key things that you can do is, so I have this mic here. It's on a stand, and I have like a few mic stands. Even if I'm filming on my iPhone and not using this, I have my full camera set up, lights and everything around me. Why? Because it looks more professional. Social is about shortcuts. And one of the key things you want to do, the same reason why you might see people say like, X Facebook, X Uber, is like, you need to give people in seconds reason to stop and pay attention to you. So treat your shortcuts and all of these shortcuts as a way to get attention and keep it. So that's part one of the hooks, and we'll get into some specifics, but I want to give you the key principles around video hooks and how to make them really powerful. And then we'll dive into very specific examples. So number one, we talked a lot about this in the first episode. Contrast is interest. Contrast from your background, your audio hook, your text hook, your visual hook, your point of view. And one of the most simple things you can do is kind of combine these two principles together here. Number one is like, don't say something's like intriguing or fascinating or interesting. Say it's like genius. Find a way to dial it to 11, because in a world of like safe content, safe is forgettable. And you want to use exaggerations, expressions, data, and specificity in a really specific way to get people's attention. So I'll show you a quick video that I think Jen does a great job on here. And I'll take you through all the reasons why it works, and then we'll unpack it and come back to it. So if you look at Jen's text hook here, cold email has an ugly baby problem. Why? So immediately, like, there's power words here. It's not saying like, oh, cold email is regrettably unuseful based on blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Sean, I'll put all of these Google Docs as a link, and I'll just like dump them in a Notion for everyone, and we'll make sure that that goes out with the email, so y'all get this afterwards. Cold email has an ugly baby problem. Why? So she didn't just say like something that is not as like punchy, like ugly baby problem. Like you have ugly and we have baby. Think about like the contrast there, the power, the emotion behind it. Like there's really something that's going to like stop and get me to pay attention. And you notice how her second line is just why. There could have been some like additional information to like give me a cue, but like literally just why is enough. I use why as my rehook for text, my second line of my text hook in probably 40% of my posts, because by default, it is a curiosity hook, right? If I say why and then don't explain, you have to click see more. One of the things that I would like to just like, if you only remember literally one thing from this entire series, it's like 80% of the success of you as a creator, your brand, your media arm, whatever it might be, is your ability to get the right type of attention. Because if no one clicks to see more in your post, it does not matter if you have the Michelangelo in it. It does not exist for them, right? Think about that. The amount of people who think if they just build great content, it will get discovered. It's like absolutely wrong. You need to have 80% of your time go to your hook. And as you write more and more hooks, you'll get better. So like for me, I've been writing hooks for 3+ years. It's one of the reasons why, our clients in the last 5 months at Authority have done over 101.3 million impressions on LinkedIn. Our media arms collectively and our personal brands have done more than 1 billion impressions on LinkedIn. That's billion with a B. And the reason why we've got good at this is just from years and years and years of practice. But my goal is to help you shortcut years to, weeks or days with this framework. So I'll come back to that video and we'll talk about this a little bit more. One of the next biggest mistakes that B2B brands make is they think that they need to flex how intelligent they are with jargon and hyphens and big words. There's a great study that was done, and it was actually done by Grammarly, and then it's been now done over a dozen times. You want to hit like a grade 8 comprehension level on your content. So one of the great things that you can do for free is go use the Hemingway app. Hemingway app will actually help you analyze your content and tell you what grade level it's at. And one of the things that you can do is basically think through and ask yourself a question that Toyota developed, which is a great framework, which is like the 5 whys. And the reason Toyota developed this was actually to find problems. So what they used to do is they would say when there was a problem at the factory, they'd say, well, why was there a problem? And then they'd have an answer. And they'd say, okay, well, why did that happen? And then they get an answer. And you can see they'd ask why 5 times. And the same thing you can do here with your content if it's simple enough. So here are the 3 rules I follow. Number 1, I say like, okay, why would my audience care? Why would they want to pay attention to this? And then I switch and I say, okay, well, can they understand this, or do I need to explain what that word means? What percentage of my audience would actually understand? And if you remember from the last episode, there was like a shipping company, right? And that shipping company had some acronyms and words that like I didn't know what they were. So, maybe I had a client that was like in that space that could have been a good fit, but I didn't understand what they were saying, right? So it's like simplicity is a superpower, and it's a sign of that you understand what you're doing. And Hemingway app, super simple, asking why and like breaking down, does this need additional explanation? If you've hit that bottom where it's like, nope, can't explain it anymore, this is the simplest thing we're trying to say. It's the same thing for your product releases. And if you're doing product releases on social, you're doing video content for them, here's massive mistake people make. They go, we just launched this new AI powered blah, blah, blah. Why should your audience care? Oh, well, they should care because right now they're taking all of their webinar clips and they're manually editing them, which is taking like time away from their day. Well, it's like, okay, well, why do they care about that? Well, like they're a busy marketer and they don't have time to actually create the content, but they see the value in LinkedIn. So if I come back to that, Goldcast, and we'll talk about their content lab, which is super sweet, helps you do just that, right? It takes your existing content and it helps you get that to production using all the techniques we talked about today. So you don't have to stress about those things. But me rephrasing that into something that my audience cares about, like finding their why in a simple way, is what's going to actually land with your audience. So here's another hack. And please use this. Please use this, because it is a massive, massive change. And it's one of the simplest things that anyone can do for free today. Have you all heard of the Hey Lawyer ad format? So this came out like years ago when people wanted to use their creative for their ad targeting. And what I mean by that is like they would literally call out, hey lawyer, if they were trying to reach lawyers. So like, hey lawyers, then they would obviously get the message. One of the best things you can do, and YouTube ran like a really long form study on this, super, super powerful. If you say you in your first line of a video, it also works in your text, you're going to get 66% more views on your video adding you. And the reason it works is you're speaking directly to your audience. Again, coming back to where we were before. One message, one audience, one emotion, and one point. The crazy thing is if you say you twice in your first few sentences, it was up to literally just you twice. That's it. You twice, up to 97% more video views. And this was YouTube's like long form study across a ton of their content. So think about it this way. We come back to a hook, right? If I was to come back to like one of my hooks here and let's say we rewrite it. Let's rewrite this on the spot about feedback and how we'd write a hook in the text and in the video. Okay. So in the text right now, mine is not saying you, right? You've probably felt this as a marketer. You got feedback and it sucked. Here's how to get less of that, right? So that's me finding a creative way of saying you and then bringing that you into my rehook, right? Or if I'm talking about like budget cuts, like you probably had your budget cut, then you've been told do more with less. Do this instead, right? So it's like, think about an easy way that you can speak. I'm speaking to B2B marketers like me. I'm using you and I'm using it twice. Now, if that was in my video or my text hook, right, there's a lot of different ways that I could be speaking to you directly. I could say, hey, you marketer, I was in this position just like you, walking into a board meeting with bad data, stressing that I'm going to get chewed out. Here's what I did instead that saved my board meeting, and you can try it today. I'll teach it to you in 47 seconds. Walk with me, right? Imagine that it's emotional, it's specific, it's you, right? And yeah, Soldier Boy. Yeah, I mean, I think the line goes either, what is it? It's like either life cranks you or you crank it. I think there was like a really good Soldier Boy meme that maybe we'll have to post at some point. But anyways, someone Google that one and let me know what it was. And it was quite good. Humor is like an underestimated vehicle here for like getting engagement with your audience and showing them that you know them. And we talked about why it's a great hook for your video of like curiosity here. But this is another piece that I think is super, super powerful. Oftentimes when I start video, I do this. And the reason that I do this is when I do this to you, or when I do this, psychologically, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about like, that is a universal symbol for like, stop, pay attention, right? I'm signaling something or someone needs you, they're waving. Your videos should start with a wave, a gesture, something that's going to psychologically prime you to pay attention. And it's the same reason why, if you notice my content, I'll show you visually why I put emojis to like score my LinkedIn posts. You want to give people something to pay attention to and to anchor to. In your video, those are your hand gestures, your audio, your contrast, the emojis, the different color you use in your subtitles. And if you see here, probably about like every, I don't know, 7 to 8 lines, I have a different emoji. It gives it like structure, and it gives me something psychologically that I can like hook to and pay attention to. And it gives it color and it gives it contrast. If this was just like a brick of paragraphs, you wouldn't be able to read it. So one of the key things you should do is think about not just in your video, but like in your text post, add color, add contrast, add pauses, add sound effects, add props. Do you remember when I told you all the Steve Jobs example of how that advertiser threw things at him? I literally threw paper at the camera like that to you. So it's like, these are the small things you can do in your video, like you pouring water, you doing something, you moving your mic, you like, you know, popping the collar on your jacket, whatever it is you're going to do, find the ways to bring like your personality, the contrast, and psychologically keep me engaged. So it's like, these are the key things that we'll want to do here. Now, we talked about the types of video hooks. We've talked about kind of the face to camera. I'm going to go through the last few. Be extreme with specifics. And Jen is amazing at this. And here's why I love this format. In 41 seconds, okay, here's a simple Google search that'll help you show up with a more informed point of view in your prospect's world. It costs $0. It's like, would I like to see you there? Would I like to see a little bit tighter? Yes, but like great specific hook. The reason I don't like generalities in marketing is this. Everyone wants to claim that they are number one, okay? Everyone wants 5 out of 5 stars. It's like, it's triggering my BS radar, right? Specifics are believable. I would much rather follow a brand that's like a 4.7 on G2 than a 5 out of 5, because I don't believe you can be that good. Like even Shopify, Toby Luke at Shopify thinks that Shopify is a 6 out of 10. He said this year over year. And you know, one of the key things that you want to do is like bring specificity in as your superpower. One of the best ways to do this is you can actually go take your video, your technique, the same way you do for newsletters, and you can tell how many words or how long it takes to consume. Use that specific number. So don't just say like, hey, I'm going to tell you how to do something in a few minutes. It's like, Mark, I need you for 2 minutes and 7 seconds. Here's what you're going to learn. Pay attention. And then like, think about the emotion that I'm solving. And when I think about the emotion I'm solving, be the painkiller, not the vitamin. Okay. So many B2B brands go, we're going to help you increase your ROI 10x to blah, blah, blah. And I go, stop. Like, I don't care about what you're adding. Take away my problems, solve the problems that I have today, right? I do not want to be in my editing studio in After Effects, putting captions and emojis. It's like, you know, that's one of the reasons why actually I met Kelly at Goldcast and why the series is even here, because of like the cool things they were doing with Content Lab to help video, because I was looking for a way to do that better with my video content. So that comes back to my 7th point here, which is like, link to the things your audience are already doing. Now, there's a great Simon Sinek quote that I'm going to butcher, which is like, don't find basically like products. It's like the whole point here is like, find products for your customers, not the other way around. Too many people go and build a product and then try to find customers for that product. Go find your customer, go find their problems, that emotion. And that comes back to our content matrix here of like deeply understanding your audience, your enemy, your why, and thinking through your core pillars. And then you're going to come back and you're going to go, okay, what do they do already today? Right? So here's something that I speak to a lot about that like our clients feel, which is like, they might write a LinkedIn post and spend 42 minutes writing it, editing it. And you know what the worst feeling in the world for them is? They get 3 likes and no one pays attention. Right? And it feels like they're like, man, I put all this effort in, put all this time, and it's like crickets, tumbleweed, sucks. Right? So you're already trying to write, Here's how you can do that. It's like, I'm not saying, hey, there's a revolutionary new way that you can write A, B, and C like this. It's like, no. If you're already writing, come check out this event. I'm going to teach you all the things that I've learned to 1 billion plus views on LinkedIn over like a decade of doing this. And here's how you can get it and like take it through. Even if it's in a Google Doc, you're paying attention, right? Because I'm not trying to take you somewhere new. I'm existing in the world that you're in today. So if you're thinking about where they are in their quarter, what they're focusing on at that point in time, there's a great framework from Drift that I used to use for marketing. It's called the Integrated Marketing Framework from Drift. And the reason I love it is because we used to start to think every quarter with a theme. So whatever our North Star was, we would start to roll up like every quarter into like a key theme. And that theme would be based on what our audience were doing in that quarter. So rather than me just thinking about like, oh, like what content am I going to create? I was like, okay, it's Q1, January 1st. People are building their strategic plans. They're working on getting their budget, their marketing investment. They're probably gearing up to hire for their teams. They're putting their objectives together, like their OKRs, all that stuff. So we'd say, okay, what are the emotions right now? Well, it's like they're going to have to commit to a forecast. They're going to have to do all these things. We would channel the emotion, the things that they were already doing, and we would get tactical. So it was like, Jen has another great video. Definitely go follow Jen. She's like, before you send that email of like just checking in at the end of your quarter, and she posted it 48 hours before the end of quarter, like 90 days into Q1, do this instead. And the tip is don't actually send the email, is wait and send it the next day. Because if someone says, hey, we'll get back to you tomorrow, and you go, great, what are you going to do tomorrow? You can email them and you're going to have to check in, which makes you look desperate, weak. But if you don't email them back, you can literally email them the next day saying, hey, great, thanks for the update. Kelly, are we still on pace for timing? Let me know and I can make sure we get the stakeholders aligned. So that was like a very tactical tip that I've used, for a long time now since following Jen, and it's great. All right. So those are the things that you should be doing. Now, the last piece, and these are the types of video that work, and we'll talk about this, and you can mind my poor Google Doc formatting. Face the camera video with net new recordings. We talked a lot about that. The next thing that I want to do here is like people holding a laptop or a thing. Let's say that you have like a screen share of something that you want to share, like a demo or something like that. One of the worst ways, it's like you will lose attention so quickly if your video is just like, and here's our product. So what you should do is you should cut a like 5 to 7 second bumper trailer of you in vertical like this. I don't have another laptop, so I'm going to hold this Kleenex box like a laptop. Opening the laptop, pointing at the screen, using gestures, all the techniques we learned today, dropping it, and having some type of transition that then takes you into the screen. And the reason that works is you're going to use you twice. You're going to look them in the eye. You're going to have scroll stop and contrast and movement, great subtitles, sound. You're going to put a human, a face to your brand, and you're going to tell them exactly what you're going to show them in a very specific time. So like, hey, Kelly, Mark here. I heard that you're struggling with A. So don't do A. You should try this instead. I'm going to teach it to you in 37 seconds. Come with me. I'll show you exactly how to do it. Let's go. Then I take you to that screen, right? That right there has hit almost all the key things that we've talked about today and is a massive difference on you getting more engagement with your video content. So that's a huge one that I like. Here's another one that like I'm a fan of. So Kelly did a great clip about Content Lab and why I said you should stop putting links in the comments. So make sure you give Kelly and the Goldcast team a follow. But there was a great post. It was like clips of me that they made from Content Lab that was like, and again, a great hook. It was like, you should stop putting your link in the comments. Don't do it. Like you should do this instead. And if you missed that part of the episode, what you should do, I'll repeat it for those because a lot of folks have asked me about this, wait about 15 to 20 minutes until your post has engagement. And then you can edit that post, but you can only edit it to 14% of the total character count. So I take a link shortener, I shorten my link, and I go and edit it. So if you had 1,000 words, you can edit up to 140 or 1,000 characters. You can edit up to 140 characters and still be within that range. And as long as you stay under 15%, LinkedIn actually won't downrank. And the place you can put your link is one of two places. I like either putting it as a second line after I've qualified what I've said, or I put it at the very, very bottom of the post once people has actually got value, and I put it as a call to action here. So that's a very tactical tip about don't do this, do this, here's why, and I'll teach it to you in 37 seconds, right? So that could have been a video post for me explaining about that thing. Now, top of funnel video hooks paired with depth posts. I talked about this a bit today, but like, I love this. I have about probably 800 of these that I've made. So if you don't follow me and you want to, you get a lot more meme videos like this. You do not have to be an expert, and you do not have to basically go on face to camera and make your own video. You can go curate clips and other things and borrow credibility from other people. So let's say you're just starting out and you don't have credibility, or let's say that you're, I don't know, you found a cool clip from like 1990 of Jeff Bezos about a leadership tip. Use that clip and borrow that credibility or borrow that humor and use it to bring out your personality, but then make sure you deliver with like depth in that post to actually give people specific value. Because like, yes, top of funnel video and top of funnel content that like just is top of funnel is good for growing your audience, but doesn't necessarily help position you as like the expert. So I love to pair like humor with depth, which is what you saw here from like a lot of my posts, be them like memes or other things. But like I always try to, if probably like 70% of the time I pair it with like depth or learning. Another thing you can do is like cool, rich media. And I know Kelly is going to give you all the quick TLDR about Content Lab after, which is going to be great. But like taking your existing branded content and really driving that home. Awesome way to do it. Now, shout out to the power of video and humor in content. So if y'all don't follow Ding Zhang, go check him out. Ding and I met years ago in my first SaaS company, and his official title is the Sales Rapper. And we actually used to create custom one-to-one music content for our like Cloud 100 prospects that we'd be coming into. And what Ding does that I absolutely love is he'll take a common problem in sales and he'll create, if any of you have musical talent, even if you don't, it's a great way to do this. Tom Boston, another great sales creator that does this, he writes songs. So it's like, you know, the hope this email finds you well. Hey there, Delilah, a music cover and a video with him and Jake over at Event Shark. So Ding is great. Event Shark is great. If you're ever looking for support producing like live footage in your events, definitely check them out. Use them before. They're amazing. But don't think that humor is a vessel for like unprofessional content. When you channel it well, it's awesome. So I want to jump through a few more examples now that we've gone through the video content and why they work. And then we'll jump into Q&A. Kelly will give you all an overview of Content Lab and sort of how I'm thinking about it and why I'm excited for it. And then we'll jump in and do some Q&A before we wrap things up. So I went through some of Jen's videos, which are great. But if you watch them all through, you notice that almost all of her videos start with like subtitles, color, her on that 80%, a good text hook, specificity. And as you see here, they go through, it's like her iPhone screen share of like showing you how she did it. So it doesn't start with that iPhone screen share. If you just saw that in your feed, you're going to swipe because there's so much information. It's not simple. I don't know it, but it's like use yourself as the best visual hook to start. It's a great way to do it. The same thing is true with Alex, and I'll pull up some more examples that I really love from him. Here's a great way to do this. Look at the contrast of this piece. It's like Alex is saying, here's the most valuable thing in sales that I learned from Eminem. And there's literally like a cut here and a reference about like him with Eminem, and then it transitions. But you see here, Alex is moving. He's working with you, right? He's framed in the video. There's emojis. There's contrast, right? There's a super simple text hook and rehook, and he's paying attention. You can notice it's short, it's actionable, and it's getting people at that point. Fun fact, Ding and I actually filmed an Eminem video. It was one of the first videos that we filmed way back in the day. And a bunch of our like VCs at the time shared in their newsletters. It was quite funny. I could dig it up at some point, but really good stuff. And another one that I like is, I'll show you one more example here. One of the most powerful marketing and psychology tactics I learned, use this daily. It's like, should that say you twice or something more direct? Probably. But what I like about this is he gives a very specific example. He says, here's a story. The US Department of Agriculture were having an issue with people stealing ancient bark from trees. So they tried all these things. They kept putting these signs up about like, our forest is being destroyed. People keep taking these. And the problem was like more people kept stealing. And he goes to explain the reason that the more basically accepted you make a behavior, the more likely, even if you're telling people not to do it, that they are to actually do it. And one of the reasons why this is great is you can see it's short, it's psychology, same framing, same contrast, but like Alex shows up as he is. If he was here in like a suit and a tie trying to be all B2B, it's like it wouldn't be a reflection of his brand. So make sure that whatever you do is like authentically you. Me, it's like I'm in t-shirts. I wear the same Aloe t-shirts like 365 days a year. And it's funny because my friends are like, do you even own more clothes? And I'm like, yes, but I just want to be me and be comfortable and be happy. So if you see me at any other events, I'll be in some type of shirt and some type of outfit like this because like that's me. So bring your authentic self. And at the end of the day, like the most important thing that you can do, come back to the very beginning here, is like find what you love to do, where every day when you make video doesn't feel like a chore, it feels like fun. And people want the curiosity. They want the behind the scenes. There's a reason why like Get Ready With Me has like 54 billion views on TikTok alone. It's because people want to see the inside scoop of how you did what you did. And invite your audience into your world. One of the key things that I've seen, and then Kelly, we can kind of talk Content Lab if you want to come up now, and we can basically give folks the reason why I was excited to connect with you and kind of run this event in the first place. This is the change that I'm seeing in the market. If you haven't followed this news, Spotify now allows people who've watched podcasts or shows to add comments that creators can approve. The same now is true with Instagram. You can add notes on your friends or company's posts. So here's the signal of what's happening in media today. People have transformed from like passive scrolling, like who want to passively consume your content, to actively engaging with what you're doing, right? That is a signal we're seeing. So the more that you can make it relatable, ask them questions, show up and like be one with them, you're going to win in B2B, because 99% of B2B brands say they want to be social, but they're anti-social. So invite people into the world, show your mistakes, be vulnerable, and like have fun with it, bring some humor. That's my mantra. B2B is not blah to blah. It is human. Have fun and be yourself. So I'll wrap my 47-minute rant, Kelly, and I'll pass the mic over and we can kind of talk Content Lab. But drop your questions in the chat, y'all. If we don't get a chance to have them, I'll drop my LinkedIn profile, shoot me a connect with your question, and then we'll kick things off for part 4 where we go deep.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mark, for sharing all of that wisdom. So I wanted to, there's a lot of video talk in here and a lot of creating net new video. And so if you're one of those people that doesn't know where to start, you have to go and like buy Amazon gear for your iPhone or whatnot. There's actually a lot that you can already do by repurposing what you already have. And so there's a lot of video in B2B, whether that's meeting recordings, webinars like this one, anything at all, you can repurpose and make into something new. So I'm going to show you how at Goldcast, we're empowering marketers to take matters into their own hands. You don't need to be a video expert or know After Effects to be able to do this. You can just start for free. So let me share my screen. All right. So very, very quick demo here. So this is the Content Lab interface. You can sign up for free right now, and what you can repurpose 1 hour of video footage every month, and this is completely free. And so I'm actually going to pull up our event, our episode from last week with Mark, and we can live repurpose and create some social clips here. And you can just see how quickly we can get this done. All right, so as this loads, you're going to see what this Content Lab interface looks. And you can see that we can create clips, we can create social posts, blog posts, emails, key takeaways, really anything with custom prompting. And so I'm going to talk about clips first, creating video clips. And so you can start by clicking create clips, and you can use AI to identify the most engaging parts of your video, or you can use the transcript. We know from research that marketers have to rewatch videos about 4 to 5 times just to find those key moments. So this AI generation really, really helps you save time. And so I'm just going to click this AI generation, and you'll be able to see AI immediately find from that transcript using different AI applications to find those key moments. So here is a clip that Mark is saying, surround yourself with inspiring creators, the key to long-term success. It's about 36 seconds, so it's a nice short clip for us to use. So what I can do now is edit that clip. So I'm going to go in and, I'm right in here already. So I can go into click templates, and then you can see that I have all these preset templates and custom templates that I've saved myself. And so I can go ahead and select one that I've already used before. I can change the layout here into different things. So I can change it into a vertical layout, all without the help of a video editor or freelancer. I can change it to a square format or a portrait format, really depending on where you want to be. I can even change it to an audiogram and make sure that Mark's headshot looks really nice there. There's
That's way better. Way better.
Make it really, really on brand for you. And once you're ready, let's actually change this back to a 1-to-1. And once you're ready, you can actually download this directly from here. And then after you've created your clip, what you can do here is generate a social post. And so directly from the content of this clip, just say generate social post, and it's going to start writing a draft of your LinkedIn post for you. Again, our philosophy in AI is that you should never publish anything from AI. It is a starting point. It is a draft for you. But these are tools out there that we are creating, and it's a free tool that anyone can take advantage of today. So definitely sign up. I think we have the links in the chat.
Yeah, and the reason why I thought this was super cool, and like when Kelly and I first connected about something like entirely different, I was just like, this is going to save me so much time, because like everything that I'm going through right now for video today, it's like if you have a clip where it's like AI has identified all of the things from like an hour event that I've done, I don't have to go back, watch them, find them, and then it's like right there, I know what I'm saying. I have a timeline of what I'm saying, so I can be like, in 36 seconds, let me show you how you should surround yourself with creators like A, B, and C. It's like, it's literally almost done for me. And then I just take my same format of how I write content. I write my emojis, my structured section, my psychological framing, like all the things that I do. And my goal was like, if I can do what I've done with text and start to do this more with video as I launch my podcast. P.S. If you're interested, it's going to be launching next month. It's called Marketing Notes. You can find it on Spotify and Apple Music and wherever people listen to podcasts nowadays. But this was the reason why I would just started reaching out to folks to try to find out, interesting new tech that's going to help make like video content easier to produce. So I know that we won't have a ton of time for like live profile reviews today because there was a ton of stuff to cover, but we can definitely jump into some Q&A, talk through any questions. And then next week, well, what do we do? Whole thing, content reviews, profile, riff. And I mean, we could even do like an end-to-end thing for someone if we want to, like full end-to-end content matrix, point of view, all that good stuff. But Kelly, I'll let you, put the host hat on and we can run from here.
First question is, what are your thoughts on TikTok trends on LinkedIn?
Yes. So I have a strong point of view here that others may disagree with. And here's my take on a scale of, you all familiar with like Jeffrey Moore Crossing the Chasm? So it basically like the way that Crossing the Chasm works, actually, you know what, like I'm going to pull this up right now because this is probably like, I have a thing about this that I think a lot of people get wrong. All right. So let me show my screen really quick and I'll talk through this because like you can tell I'm not passionate about this at all. All right, give me one sec. All right. So if you haven't seen Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore, here's a very good example of it. So there's the innovators, the techies. So these are the people that are like willing to go pay $1,800 for the new iPhone, even when it's like janky, broken, not working, because they just want the latest tech. They're interested. Then there's the early adopters, the visionaries who are like, I'll wait till like the first month of like bugs get fixed from the early adopters, and then I'll go get it. Then there's this massive chasm, which is the people that are like waiting for it to be like safe and in the majority. Like they don't want to be the one that's like taking a risk on this thing. You know that saying like you don't get fired for buying IBM? It's like those are the people that wait that you need to like cross the chasm for it to be like a safe and approachable thing to do. Like they're going to buy from the known vendor, not the fancy new startup that like might get them in trouble if it doesn't work out. Then there's the late majority, the like conservatives, the folks that are like, getting their first iPhone in 2028 that are still on like a Nokia or a BlackBerry. And then there's like the skeptics, the laggards who probably are still on that BlackBerry today, even since the like bankruptcy and all that stuff. And I'll come back to the question, but the reason why I share this is there is a very unique way that you can map crossing the chasm with different generations and how people consume content and the types of trends. And the reason why I'm prefacing all of this is if you look at, there's a fascinating study about Gen Z. And Gen Z, if you ever follow like Ad Age, they do these like trust cohorts where they measure like trust from different brands. And Gen Z earned like, I think TikTok got like plus 20.7 points of trust from Gen Z and minus 3.5 points from generations older than Gen Z. And this is basically like if we were layering these three things together, there's like all the different generations and how they were raised. There was like the crossing the chasm and how people operate. And then there's what I call the maturity of different content platforms. And here's what I mean by that. LinkedIn is closer to that right end of the spectrum. Then there's Twitter. Then there's Instagram. Then there's like TikTok. And then there's Reddit. And one of the problems is like when people go take like a viral TikTok trend and they post it on LinkedIn, they're trying to cross that chasm. But 99% of the LinkedIn audience don't get the reference. They're not there. The same reason I know creators who reference like the thing that happened an hour ago at Love Island that maybe like 0.1% of LinkedIn were watching that like falls on deaf ears. So it's like the reason why I primarily look for content on like Twitter and Instagram is they are what I call like, y'all familiar with the board game Risk? Yeah. Okay, I got one person nodding with me. So Risk. In Risk, if you were to take all of your like army people on the map and move them from like where you had a stronghold, let's say, all the way across the world, you're going to get conquered because you're spreading yourself so thin. But if you do this intelligently, which is like a big belief in marketing, make 1% pivots from strength to strength. So don't go from like Europe all the way down to, Australia. It's like go from Madrid to Mallorca. Then go to Mallorca to Seville. That's what you need to start to be thinking about is like, will the people consuming this content understand this trend? Will the social references land? Does it follow the principles of everything we talked about today? So my general belief is like, if you are trying to reach an early adopter audience, a young Gen Z audience who are probably on LinkedIn, but they don't want to be, but they're there during work hours, then like TikTok is great content to reach them. If you are trying to reach a chief revenue officer who's probably 61 at Snowflake, you probably want to take a different approach to your content. So the classic marketer BS answer is like, it depends, but you should map out like your chasm, the maturity of social, and then the likeliness that they understand. And one of the best ways you can do that is like ask why 5 times and like get to the root of it. It's like, will my audience understand this? Why am I making this reference? What's the point I'm trying to get across? Is it simple enough? Like all of those things. I would like literally do 40 minutes on this topic. So I'm going to stop there because like I have a problem. But short answer was like, know your audience. So work with your product marketer and your team to do this. And there's actually a great framework. One more framework. Go follow Joanna Wiebe. She used to run Copy Hackers. And there's a great template for this. I'll have to dig up my post for it. But basically, you go take a Google Sheet and you go take like your customer calls and you put them in like, let's say you had 3 different like personas. You put them each in like a tab in that Google Sheet. And what you want to do is basically, as you're listening to the calls, you like analyze in chronological order, like on a timeline, what they said when. And what you'll find is like, look for the documentary moments, the big things, what they're excited about and seeing like your product tour. And what you'll find is like, you will see a pattern after 5 calls. So one of the best things you can do with starting a new company and getting your entire team rallied behind understanding your customer, get everyone to go and watch 5 calls, 1 persona. Even if you just have like the call recording, the gong, the chorus, the clarity, whatever it is, and do the sheet exercise, you'll see immediately the pattern of like what their pain is. If you can bring that TikTok dance on LinkedIn and represent their pain, you might actually win over that CRO. And at some point I can talk to you about my good friend, Ryan Scalera, who was my first hire in tech and how we used to do funny music video content on LinkedIn to Fortune 100 accounts and win those accounts with this style of content because we deeply understood our audience. So I'll cap that because I think my words per minute is like 240. So you can tell it's like, I'm not passionate about this like at all. Like nothing.
I love that. We have time for, I think, one more question from Carol. Does your work in the hook just as well as you?
No, it does not. And the reason is psychologically, you speaks directly to the person, your, y'all, any of those. I use y'all because I'm more like, I think just like Canadian, Midwestern at heart, but like not quite. And you has this like punch and brevity and specificity. When I say you you can feel me like looking at you, speaking to you, like Barry Manilow, like serenading you in the audience over the microphone right now. It's like, that's the energy you want your LinkedIn audience to feel. It's like, give me a little magic, a little sparkle emoji. Like, give me some of that vibe, right? It's like, that's what you does. The same thing that like B2B companies, when they say we, it's like, oh, we're announcing A, B, and C. It's like, stop. No we, no nothing else. It's like you. You is the only thing. It is the most important, like, 3-letter word in the English language for your content. And when you get right with you, both understanding who that you is and how to speak to them, that is what you're gonna win. So you, all of you watching, thank you for coming out. Thank you for bearing with all the LinkedIn rants, all the crazy. I appreciate you. Shoot me a connect and definitely let me know if you have questions for the next episode. I'll drop my LinkedIn. Shoot me a connect plus your questions. Kelly, thank you. And one reminder here, share your unique stories. And what I mean by that is unique stories. Your stories are what make you unique. They're what make you stand out. That's how you win on LinkedIn, telling your unique stories. So we'll end with a meme. Kelly, thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Thanks, everybody, so much. Thank you, Mark, for joining 3 parts of the series. And next week, don't forget to click on that button, live review bonus episode. We're going to do live workshops and checking out people's personal and also company pages. So definitely submit your pages, and we'll see you next week on Tuesday.
Peace.
Bye.